This video is brought to you by the Paladin Learn History app. Paris in the 1700s was a city of extremes. It was a booming metropolis of over 500,000 people, yet it was plagued by chaos that would reshape the modern city. This was also an era of transformation. Elegant boulevards and squares were being envisioned, and architects like Jules Hardouin-Mansart rebuilt the city in grand style. Thanks to new advanced AI software, we can now recreate these scenes with unprecedented accuracy. By analysing actual 18th century paintings and engravings, we're able to show how Paris is likely to have looked, including the architecture, streets, people, and atmosphere of the time, allowing us to step back nearly 300 years and experience the city as Parisians once did. This is an extraordinary bird's-eye view of the city of Paris from the mid-18th century. Looking up the River Seine from what would later become the site of the Eiffel Tower, you're seeing the beating heart of Bourbon Paris, the cultural capital of Europe and the centre of royal extravagance. Dominating the skyline is the magnificent Cathedral of Notre Dame, standing proud over the Ile de la Cité, just as it had for centuries. To the right, you can see the gleaming golden dome of Les Invalides, standing as a permanent reminder of the military might that reshaped France. The Seine is crowded with flat-bottomed barges and merchant boats. This was Paris's highway, teeming with trade from across the French provinces. Notice the famous Pont au Change, still lined with tall houses and crowded shops as it had been for generations. This view captures Paris at the height of its Enlightenment prosperity, when it was transforming from a medieval stronghold into the intellectual capital of the world. This is the iconic view from the hills of Montmartre, looking south toward Paris in the mid-18th century. You're standing at what would become one of the most culturally and scientifically significant spots on Earth. In the distance stands the Paris Observatory, making this a centre point from which French cartographers measured the world. Below the windmills of the hill sits a sprawling, densely packed metropolis, nestled between grand new royal avenues. Completed in the late 17th century, the sprawling complex of Les Invalides served as a home for retired and wounded soldiers. France's version of the Greenwich Hospital in London. These Baroque masterpieces were statement architecture, proclaiming the Sun King's absolute dominance. Paris was the ultimate destination for European thinkers, and this elevated viewpoint allowed visitors to survey the entire approach to the capital. The fashionably dressed figures in the foreground are taking in what was considered one of France's finest prospects. It's a view that has captivated artists and writers for over 3 centuries and remains virtually unchanged today. This is Place Vendôme visitors surveyed the entire approach to the capital. The fashionably dressed figures in the foreground were taking in what was considered one of France's finest prospects. A view that has captivated artists and writers for over 3 centuries and remains virtually unchanged today. This is Place Vendôme in the mid-18th century, one of Paris's most fashionable residential addresses. The grand octagonal layout dominating the space was designed by Hardouin-Mansart in 1699, built to house the grandest nobles and royal financiers. The square became a magnet for absolute wealth and power. Influential ministers lived and worked behind these uniform classical facades, marked by elegant Corinthian pilasters. Opposite, wealthy tax farmers would establish their lavish salons, hosting the era's most influential Enlightenment thinkers. Notice the massive equestrian statue of King Louis XIV at the centre of the square, erected in 1699. By this period, this monumental space had transformed from a royal speculation project into one of Paris's most desirable addresses. Though its grandest days as an unchecked aristocratic playground were numbered, within decades, revolution would replace absolute monarchy as the square's defining character. Next, we arrive at the eastern edge of the city, looking across to the Bastille, France's most formidable fortress, seen from the bustling streets that surrounded its imposing moat. For over 400 years, this towering structure controlled the eastern approach to Paris. Its 8 massive stone towers were a terrifying statement of royal power. Originally built during the 100 Years' War to defend the city from the English, by this period, the Bastille served a much darker role, a state prison for those who crossed the king. The heavily guarded gatehouse you see here was the main entrance for prisoners arriving by carriage under royal decree, including famous figures like Voltaire before their exile. The various tradesmen and locals passing by remind us that this was also a working Parisian neighborhood, with ordinary life proceeding right beneath the fortress's watchful, oppressive gaze. This is the bustling expanse of Les Halles in the 18th century, where the city's stomach rumbled in a single chaotic space. Originating in the 12th century, this was Paris's undisputed epicenter of food and trade. Merchants from across the countryside gathered in these open-air pavilions every single morning. Trading sessions were marked by the shouts of hawkers and the clatter of wooden carts. Picture this, deals being shouted in rapid-fire Parisian slang, the smell of fresh fish and baked bread, the scratch of quills on ledgers, the arcaded. The merchants from across the countryside gathered in these open-air pavilions every single morning. Trading sessions were marked by the shouts of hawkers and the clatter of wooden carts. Picture this, deals being shouted in rapid-fire Parisian slang, the smell of fresh fish and baked bread, and the scratch of quills on merchants' ledgers. The covered walkways on multiple levels housed stalls selling everything from root vegetables to fine imported luxuries. While royal inspectors operated their weighing stations from these very galleries, this single district kept a booming Paris alive, the prototype that would inspire modern wholesale markets around the globe. This is the Place Royale, known today as Place des Vosges in the mid-18th century. The pinnacle of old aristocratic Paris and one of the capital's most exclusive addresses. Developed in the early 1600s by Henri IV, this square attracted the wealthiest nobility in France. Dukes, counts, and celebrated writers competed for residences here. What you're seeing is the elegant symmetry of the red brick and stone facades with their steep slate roofs. They enclosed a central garden where nobles once held spectacular jousting tournaments, before the square's construction. This area had been the site of a ruined palace, abandoned and frankly embarrassing for the royal crown. The Marais district rises all around it. Within decades, this square would see its aristocratic residents flee the revolution, transitioning from residential grandeur to the bohemian and literary haven that occupies these buildings today. This is the Rue Saint-Honoré, a bustling commercial artery in 18th century Paris. The name has long been synonymous with high society and luxury, and for centuries, this was where absolute fortunes were made. The elegant facades rising above the street belong to the finest artisans in France, catering directly to the royal court at Versailles and the elite of the city. Down this long, narrow avenue, merchants sold everything from fine Lyonnaise silks and jewelry to radical books and exotic spices. The rows of shops you see lining both sides were among the most expensive retail premises in the world. This wasn't just a street, it was the Rodeo Drive and Fifth Avenue of the 1700s rolled into one, where Paris's rising bourgeoisie built their empires one transaction at a time. History has left us thousands of these remarkable engravings and paintings from cities across the globe. Snapshots frozen in time, waiting to be brought back to life. So tell us in the comments, which city would you like to see revived next? Your choice could be featured in our next video. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.